So, I've already said that for a couple of stragglers to come in. If you saw the Palo Alto presentation this morning, the theme of this is not identical, but it's very similar. Our solutions are not identical, but similar. So some of this is going to seem quite familiar. This is a bit of a lesson in acronyms, I'm afraid. So there will be a test at the end. So, as Lee said, quite rightly, and I 100% agree with the competitor on this occasion, the landscape's changed. We released a brand new release of software about 18 months ago. We released a new version of software about 2 months ago. Anybody running our older products, running the old version 4 code, really isn't carrying the protection that they think they may have. So the threat landscape's become much more focused, much more targeted. The old shotgun approach, or hand grenade, or throw it over the wall and see if it blows something up kind of approach is still there. So whoever it was, I can't remember his name, who said AV is dead, but he's wrong there. So it's still very much a live landscape, but it has moved on. It's much more targeted, hybrid attacks, which are a mixture of bulk attacks, so DDoS attacks, but hidden within there are much more subtle targeted attacks going on. So the APT acronym comes up, and just to prove that it's an acronym story, the attacks are targeted. They are forensic, they do research, they understand your systems, they understand your intellectual property, they come for something. Not, well, let's see what happens and maybe something will pop out the other side. They actually come in looking for something. So, this is a similar diagram. Basically, they decide who they're after, or who's got what they want. Right? They're organised. It's not a one-man band. That came out of the Palo presentation. I'll steal that slide, actually. And then they build specific tools against you. So they learn what they can about your systems, they test them, they probe them, they prod them, they look through the window, as Lee said, and then they build a tool set to come after what you've got. So it's a different game. Right? And the problem with this different game is, good as we are, and Fortinet spend millions and millions every year just doing forensics on the internet. We gather forensics from something like 1 million deployed FortiGates around the world now. We've got forensic tools sniffing the internet. We take data from the authorities, from Microsoft, from anybody who will give us data to basically build a tool set against known attacks. Problem is with this game is they're not known. So 0 days already been mentioned, but fundamentally they are new attacks hidden inside old attacks. So while we're busy dealing with the bad news that we know about, the bad news that we don't know about is just sneaking past us. Right? So that's the game here. The other thing, which I agree with, it's a long-term game. It's not a quick buck. It's not a quick win here. We were about getting inside the network and staying in there undetected. Something like, I've forgotten the exact statistic, but many attacks, that get in, actually exist in the network between 3 months and 2 years before they're detected. So they're just sat there. They're not necessarily dormant, some of them are. They may move around, but the whole idea is to get in and stay in. Sneakily, below the radar. So, we get in, we find some way of getting the data we want out, the outbound connection of some type. DNS is a common target, FTP, telnet, all the ports that we tend to leave open because we think they're safe. We'll hide another data flow inside what appears to be on the DNS port, but in fact is not a DNS connection. So we should really be inspecting those types of traffic outbound to find out if they're actually what they should be. Right, so it is a two-way, a group thing. So, and our whole game is to get something out. Else why would we do it? Unless we're just being unpleasant and nasty. A typical example, it has been said by somebody in Cheltenham very recently that the social networking sites are the, the new vector, and it's true. They're getting in through those types of mechanisms. It's a very common attack. So the old, a link inside an email approach, still around, but they're using the social networks. And there's the number, right? So anybody, we know about the, in, out, grab something and go, but a lot of these attacks will sit there for a long time, and they're good at hiding. I like this slide. So this is June this year. Right? Per day, you can see for some reason, on the 20th of June, there were over 400,000 attacks, of which only 300,000 were identified. 25% got through unidentified. That's a lot of stuff. So we're interested in the red bit. We're interested in the green bit, but we know about the green bit, so we can catch that. But what we want to do is how do we deal with this top 10-20% that's getting through? Why? Again, Paolo uses a similar slide to this. Crime is the big one. Money, data, that kind of thing. So intellectual property. The hacktivists are busy. That was mentioned again this morning. And sneaking stuff out. I don't want to use this slide because the numbers don't quite stack up. I thought I'd take them that way. So, the new one, advanced persistent threats. They are targeted. How do we deal with them? We need new tools to deal with this, and that's what 2014's been all about. It's developing, and we have to keep developing, because you know as well as I do that this is a moving target. These guys aren't standing still, and they're not stupid. Is there a tool for this? Is a silver bullet? Well, you can guess what the answer to that is, can't you? Right. This is a layered approach to attacking you, and unfortunately you have to respond with a layered approach to protect yourself. So there isn't a nice box. I wish I could say go buy Fortinet, it does everything you need. You'll never have a problem for the rest of your life. Well, if you don't, it's probably because you don't know about it, not because it's not happened. But the fact is we need multiple tools to deal with this type of threat. Now this actually came from Gartner. Lee was a bit cynical about Gartner this morning, and I understand why. Anybody who takes money to test your equipment and asks you for the operating system that you think would fit best into the testing, it's kind of not really a very true result. There are better approaches out here, but they actually came up with this, which is a good view. And if you read this report, which is a good report actually, I have to say, they'll say basically these are the things you need to lock yourself down and protect yourself. So you need to know what's happening with your network traffic, your network analysis tools. You need to look at payloads in many different ways, not just AV. You need to look at the behaviour of your endpoints. That tells you something about what's already happening. If there's something weird happening in your endpoints, be it one of these things, or an Android, or a PC, or a Mac, they're all vulnerable, but we all know what they should be doing. The problem with this stuff, and everyone likes to talk about BYOD, I have an 11-year-old granddaughter who has some games on this, even though it's a work phone. She loads them on. She happens to know my password, which, as a security engineer, probably is unforgivable, but she does. So, there's stuff on there that company don't know about. We all remember the days where if you walked in with a memory stick, the IT department would have SC fit because you're not allowed to do that because you don't know what you're carrying in. Now, we're encouraged to bring these things in, right? And he's right, the Android is like a piece of Swiss cheese as an operating system. It's one of the least secure kicking around at the moment. We are encouraged to download applications which we do not know anything about, really. Nice game. And then walk inside the firewall, inside the security perimeter, and connect them to our network. It's insanity, but that's what people expect. We did a survey last year for InfoSec, and basically, particularly in the younger generation, which I'm not part of anymore, but sub-30s, they basically all turned around and about 50% of them turned around and said, regardless of the corporate security policy, I will take my iPad into the company and I will connect it to the wireless network. Whatever they say, I'm going to do it. So the old days of the Wild West being out there, I've got my ring of wagons, my firewalls, and we're all safe inside. Well, unfortunately, Indians are inside the wagons now because we let them. We open the door. So anyway, read the report. It's great. Gartner basically saying if you've got 3 of these 5 things going on in your network, you're probably going to be pretty good. So how do we do this? There's the 3. So we need to do something here or here, here or here, and definitely need to be in the middleware. Right. So you still need your firewalls. AV is not dead. In fact, I think that's the next slide. So you want to stop whatever you can, right? And here the pedigree of the firewall and the quality of the AV database and the quality of the web filtering and the network forensics that go on, all of those things, that becomes critical. That's where vendors can differentiate. Do you know what? We make the fastest, most cost-effective, next-generation firewalls, UTM devices in the market space, I believe. Lee would probably disagree with that statement. But, however, they are just a piece of tin with a power lead. Without the AV database, without the web filtering database, without all that, that's where the value is. So Fortinet's real value is FortiGuard, which is the cloud-based security databases that drives the IPS, that drives the AV. And that means that we're going to catch in excess of 96% of stuff trying to get into the network that's bad, because we know about it. Right? And we're actually pretty good. So, quality makes a difference here. We're pretty good at detecting stuff that we don't know about. Because the way we do use signatures, but not really in the sense that kind of, not as we know it. We have a pattern matching language, which means that, if I gave the gatekeeper, a picture of myself, and then I go and grow a beard and try and get back in, I might well get past him or her, because I don't look quite like I did, but I'm still Jeff. I'm still the same virus. So the variants, we're actually quite good at catching variations. So, we need to stop it, whatever we can. Step 1, right? We need to find the stuff that's in, because it will come in. Not, it might. You might get lucky, I suppose, but it will get in. How do we find it once it's in? And what do we do about it when we find it? I'm not going to go all the way around this slide. There isn't time that I've got here, but reduce the attack surface. We lock down the network, right? So we're using network access control, authentication, two-factor, all of those good things. Make the target as small as possible, is what that's saying. Right? You've got a nice wide open network, it's great, very flexible, anyone can walk in and connect. That's great, but you're just opening the door. It's harder to get through a door that's part closed than it is one that's wide open. Right? So stop stuff coming in, identify new, and that's really where I want to focus today. And what do we do about it? How do we contain? So talked about that. Good old AV, as I said, it's not dead. Who was it? It was McAfee or something like that. I forget. Some industry guru. Be careful about the AV. They aren't all the same. As I say, the core here is the technology has to be good. So is it good at matching things which are almost the same as something you saw before? Right? Where do you put it? That gets back to where's the perimeter. The Indians are already inside the wagons, then maybe I ought to think about closing the wagons up a bit. So at least protect my core service system, system. So where you put it actually makes a difference, right? And how good is it? Right. Lee started to talk about that. I'm going to spend the remaining 15 minutes talking mostly about that. How do you find the stuff you don't know about? Given that it doesn't want to get found, you need a technology which is integrated with the rest of the security solution, key, not just standalone. It needs to be an integrated solution which can find the bad stuff. And there's good and bad technologies. The great thing about sandboxing is technology pretty much created by FireEye. They introduced it a few years ago, great technology, but like all new technologies, everyone thinks it's going to solve the world's problems. A year after it arrives, we find out that it's not quite going to solve the world's problems, so we get a bit despondent about it. I just spent £250,000 on sandboxing technology, and guess what? It doesn't actually solve the whole problem. Right? So we're kind of out of that now. We're at a stage where sandboxing is a good technology and a layered approach to security. Right? And Lee talked about this, so I'm not going to talk too much about it, but we need to know about botnets. That's part of our job in FortiGuard, is to know where the bad sites are and use that information to help you mitigate. We need to know who the bad guys are in the room, right? Some of us behave well, and some of us behave less well. And you need technologies which can measure people's behaviour. So you're going to look at what people are doing. Are they persistently going to a site which we know is a botnet? Are they persistently hitting URLs which we know are bad URLs? And basically generate a view about you and me, whether I'm a good boy or a bad boy, or kind of okay most of the time, but tend to play around at 6 o'clock in the evening when everyone's gone home, that kind of thing. And we can see that through the client, we can see that in the network, through analysis. Let's just have a quick word. Does everyone know what sandboxing is all about? Yeah? Good, that'll make the slide very short. I liken it to, you find a metal object with fins on the back. Now, is that bomb or is it not a bomb? Not quite sure. So, sandboxing, the idea is you pick it up, you put it in a bomb-proof room, and you send some poor guy in there with a hammer and tell him to keep hitting it and see what happens. Right? They call it detonation. So we're trying to make this stuff go off. Now the problem is, because the way they write this is designed to hide, they can detect if they're running inside a virtual machine. And go, I'm not going to do what you think I'm going to do because I happen to know that you've got me in the bomb-proof shelter. So I'm just going to pretend I'm benign. So what we do inside the sandbox is we accelerate time. So if it's time not to go off for a year, we'll work that. So we'll make it think it's been there for a year. We hit it with keystrokes, we hit it with I/O, we hit it with every tool that we've got in the bag just to try and make it go bang. And then, when it goes bang, if it goes bang, we write a report. What does it do? Well, it made some registry changes, it made an I/O call, it did this, it did that. Full forensic report to say, this particular piece of code, this is what it does. Right. Unfortunately, it's already in. So, you know you're in trouble. You know exactly how much trouble you're in. You also know where it went and where it came from. So, yeah, that's not a bad start point. So at least I've got some tools now to do something about it. So the next step has traditionally been, poor old Mr. Security gets to get his toolkit out, go after it and get rid of it. Or you isolate it or something like that. The question is can we do better than that in the remediation stage? Pretty much know what we need to know. There's something else here. I said that we're gathering forensics from 1 million odd Fortinets around the world. It's not that. We haven't got 1 million around the world, but we don't get forensics from them all because people don't allow us to get forensics from them, but we get from a lot of them. With this kind of technology, sandboxing, I've got a device on a customer's premise which is finding out about new bad stuff and generating a full forensic report. Wouldn't it be nice if that device told me at Fortinet what it's just found, what it does, and then what I will do, and this did come up in the presentation this morning, is I will update my AV, my IPS, all of my databases, so that we then download those back down to all the FortiGates and the sandbox. By the way, the sandbox runs the same AV engine as FortiGate. So this is a closed loop system. He finds it, he tells me, Mr. FortiCloud, I tell all the FortiGates, by the way, there's something new you need to know about. Catch it next time. Unfortunately, poor guy who saw it first has still got it. But there is a community benefit in this approach. So we all benefit from the poor guy who gets infected first. Somebody has to suffer some pain, I'm afraid. Okay, so that's sandboxing, and it's integrated. And the way this works at Fortinet, actually, I've got a slide for it. So we talked about that, payload analysis. I don't know, are we going to give the presentations to everybody? Is that part of the...
I'm not sure, to be honest.
Right, okay, that's a shame. Well, there's a really good Trollman, he's one of the sort of gurus of the space, talks about sandboxing, why it's good, why it was overhyped, you know, how it fits, and all the rest of it. So that's, again, it's a really nice article. Yeah. So it's on darkreading.com. There. I commend it to you. So we know about it. We've updated our threat protection packages, and we just need to keep doing this. This is a continuous process. Right. Talked about that. FortiCloud over there. Sandbox here. Next generation firewall at the top. It's almost everything I need. But I said one of us is infected in this room. Right, so this is how it works. We've got a firewall somewhere in our network protecting our core services or protecting the edge, or both. Probably both, I would recommend. So what happens is that catches 96.4% of all known bad viruses and all the rest of it. However, what it also does, because it's inspecting that inbound traffic to find out, you know, is it good or is it bad, or is it known to be bad, more to the point, it will identify stuff and say, I don't like the look of this. I'm not sure if it's good or bad. Is it a bomb? Is it not a bomb? I don't know. But it kind of has the look of a bomb about it. It's script inside a PDF. It's, you know, Excel script. It's DLL. Something that's executable. Smells executable. Right. So I'm going to take that object and hand it off to the sandbox. So my perimeter defences are forwarding potentially dangerous traffic off to the sandbox. Sandbox does its thing. Takes time. You know, if you're going to accelerate time and do all of those cute things, you know, it's not instantaneous. So the idea of holding stuff at the perimeter while you sandbox it really doesn't fly. We're all about user experience. So if you're going to hold something for 30 seconds or a minute, anything more than 5 seconds is too much, basically. While you sandbox it, your users are going to hate you. Right? So can't really do that. You've got to let it go through, but hang on to a copy of it and put it into the sandbox. Then you've got endpoint control. Right? So here we've got FortiGate, FortiSandbox, FortiClient, endpoint protection. AV database is there, it's here, and it's here. Right? So I've actually got almost remediation tools, because I've got something when the AV database gets updated. These take the same AV database as that and that. So I've just updated my AV database. I've updated my endpoints as well. So I've got something that can scan and find you know, new known bad things. Talk about FortiGuard down there in the bottom corner. That's the update process. Now, we also offer this cloud-based service. So if you don't want your own appliance, the sandboxing capability in the cloud is identical. In fact, we've had sandboxing in FortiCloud for the last 10 years. All we did was actually productize it and put it out in the appliance. Why do we do that? Because if you talk to some customers in government, finance, they can't move their data off their prem or off their own network. Compliance, legal, all sorts of reasons why they can't send it up here for analysis. So we have to do on-site analysis, and that's why FortiSandbox exists.
Presumably, though, you can only sandbox or send stuff to sandbox which has come in from the internet. Because we've had a number of conversations with customers who've got this requirement for compliance, you're only sending stuff out to FortiCloud that's come in from the internet anyway.
Right. Well, actually, that's not strictly speaking true. Sandbox also integrates with our mail filter, and in that case, Sandbox, it will actually quarantine the object until Sandbox has come up with its report. So there's two mechanisms for feeding Sandbox, but there is a third, and that is there is a user interface on Sandbox. You can actually log into Sandbox and hand it an object and say, could you look at this for me? And it will send you back the report. So me as a user, I've got something on my machine which I'm not sure about, go to the web GUI, give Sandbox a manual submission is a possibility. I'm about to move again. So that's the flow. I think I've talked it to death pretty much. The thing that's changing, and it's not a today thing, so at the moment we've got these FortiClient, which is iOS, Android, Windows, Unix, the variants. It's an IPS, it's an AV, it's a FortiGate really, but it's happened to be running on your end machine. In all aspects, it's FortiGate. The bit that we're doing for the new year, and I don't have it today, is that when Sandbox identifies problem, source and destination, there'll be an automatic handshake between the Sandbox and the client to start a remediation cycle. Properly close the loop. So instead of saying to you, sorry, you've got a problem, go and sort it out, I will say directly to the end user, you've got a problem, sort it out. So an automatic remediation. That pretty much completes the loop. Is it 100% bulletproof? No, it's damn sight better than what we've got now. You know, this technology, and the good thing is we start from a detection rate of 96.5%. This gives us the other, all we've got to do is worry about the 3.5% that we don't catch. Right? So the job of Sandbox is actually a lot smaller because we do such a good job at the edge. Okay, I think that's all I wanted to say, pretty much on time. I'll take questions if you like, or we've got a stand in the main area if you want to come and ask questions. Any immediate questions? Brilliant. Thank you very much.